inviting me here. I'm an Italian performance artist. My name is Chiara Fumari, and I'm participating to this seminar with my first performance piece that was made in 2010. Actually, there were already seeds, inspiration, props, I would say, of this performance in 2008. That is the year of my first solo exhibition. In 2008, I was already 30. So someone might ask, why did it take such a long time to create the first piece and to make a first exhibition? I worked as disc jockey before, professional disc jockey for 8 years. And I studied architecture, so I don't have art education in my background. But performance art didn't arrive by chance. The reason of this delay is very personal. I was feeling guilty about the act of art creation. And I'm not here to express, to open a moral issue about this fact. I'm sure that the most incorrect situation of life generates the most significant art pieces. So I'm not here to complain about this. But this was the beginning. This is the beginning of this story. And why I was feeling guilty about art creation and how did I solve this situation? I was feeling guilty because I had a very strict education. I was raised in the south of Italy by my father, who's a very nice person, but at the same time he was a very conservative man. So he tried to keep me very far away from performance art, because my mother is an actress and then they divorced, so it's quite a delicate situation. And I also had a lot of respect for him taking care of me and helping me, supporting me in my studies. So I didn't know how to present to him the fact that I was an artist, that I was a performance artist, and how to tell to create a link with my origins and explain to my family that, I mean, this is how my things were going. So at one point I decided for my first exhibition that rather than presenting myself, I should have rather started working with alter egos and eliminate the ego, which is also something nice to do, fragment the ego. So in 2008, during the exhibition All Right, Tutto Giusto, I started for the first time introducing at first alter egos, and then egos became many, and then I discovered that actually it's just something, the ego is related to a systematic thinking, so being able to free yourself from this is just the first form of liberation. But when I had to make my first exhibition, as I said, I was also disc jockey. So this idea of working with authorship of things and feeling so comfortable about that, I actually didn't learn from the art education, but I learned it from electronic music. Because during the 8 years that I spent into DJing, I've been a very big fan, more as collector than a real, not really someone who was pushing that music indeed. But I was a big fan of a music style called Italo disco. In some countries of Europe, it's a very, very famous music style. In some others, it's never been heard. Is this known here, Italo disco? Do you know what Italo disco is? I guess, okay. So Italo disco is disco music produced in Italy in the 80s, late 70s and early first part of the 80s. That was dealing with authorship, because the artist was hiding behind another person. And at the same time, Italo disco is also a very ironical music style, that ironical music style full of contradiction. That at the same time was the musical expression of the first private television channels in the late 70s, early 80s. The chance of private television became from local to national, and everything changed. People started believing what they were seeing through the screens, and then how our story then turned. The story of Italian politics, that people started believing in the spectacle as a moment of truth, but at the same time it was a moment of truth. So Italo disco is very visionary music, a very weird music style done with nothing, home studio music first, very ironical. A kind of music style that was discussing, fragmenting the self of the author, and last not least was really making fun of the spectators. It was reversing the already reversed society back to the spectators through completely fake disco star. All the Italian disco stars were fake, they were actors, lip syncing on television. So I mean, I am a big admirer of this music style, and this is why I thought it would have been nice to leave the stage of performance artists. No, leave the stage of performance artists and develop the research. Because there has never been it's never been published, because it's so complicated and fragmented, the story of Italo disco. So to create a real genealogy and to give it to a public that could have comprehended all the story, all its development. I've chosen to tell the story of Italo disco, that, as I said, is very difficult because it's impossible to find a real protagonist, because the author was hiding behind another face, then the singer was usually another person as well. So there hasn't been a real witness of the entire situation. But I found an artist, a performer, not a lecturer, a very underrated Italian singer and songwriter and composer, who, within his very difficult and complicated career, full of failures, full of rethinking, full of variation, has performed the entire history of Italo disco, from the ashes of Italian popular song into electronic dance music. And there's one Italian person who has been somehow forgotten by the general public. I'm obviously speaking of Nico Fumai. Nico Fumai is an Italian singer and composer who is from the 40s, was born in the 40s, who started his career in the late 60s, very late 60s, first working as in a theater as a singer and a performer. His first record is very similar to the beginning of, it's very similar to the inspiration of this performance. Can you hear me? Because it was like a first experiment for a very little label. I advise you that now we will hear how we moved from popular Italian love songs to electronic music. So the first half of the listening session is made by Italian love songs, so don't expect to get disco so easily. So the very beginning of his career is in this 45 RPM. A Rose for You. This is the very first record, and I think it's important to listen to it because it's also a family affair, a family situation. It's a record that is dedicated to the mother of the artist in order to create a new connection. And if the A side is very, how can I say, very traditional, the B side is much more experimental and is instrumental. So it will be the synthesis, the balance between the instrumental part of this experiment and the more traditional love song composition that Italo Disco will be born then lately. So now I'll make you hear this very first record. This record has never been repressed, re-released again. It's called Una Rosa per Te. It's very early years of the career of this, what we can consider the prophet of the Italo Disco music style. That is a concert for a piano produced in collaboration with another composer called Roberto Paolacci, and so this record was produced released in Rome, but produced in the south of Italy as well. But then this label closed later, so it's a very early experiment. This is only instrumental, so no voice. Very early production. Later, Fumai, who's probably more known in his career for this part of his work and not that much in the Italo disco part that then was born later within the 80s. Then he found his own position in the traditional Italian music. So he gave his presence, he gave his face for the creation of for new tracks. So one of this is very famous. This was also included recently in a project by Davide Bertocchi for his top 100. It's a project where the artist collects important tracks. So one of these is by Nico Fumai. It's a very old song called Maria. But it's not this version of the record. So this is from, if I'm not wrong, this is must be 67, 68. So it was released by a bigger label, DGB Italiano. So still again, traditional love song composition. But the problem of this singer at the time was that he didn't want to perform on stage because of certain artistical position related to what is the real piece of the artist. The artist didn't want to show on stage. He just wanted to make the music and singing himself, which is very, very close to certain role that have now electronic musicians. The music is made in a studio and not necessarily delivered on stage. This is another record of the time, early end of the 60s, Amarti Ora, Loving You. It's very similar to those I made you hear before. The one I made you hear before. Again, a love song, A-side, but experimental track on the B-side. This is also well known. Boys Like Me, They'll Never Forget. 1970. And this was released by Compagnia Generale del Disco. This is a very well-known label, a very well-known 70s Italian label. But as I said, since there weren't live show, the career of the artist is very fragmented, not really directed. It wasn't a success after the other. It will be only in 71, that is the year before the change, before the big change in the career of Fumai, that the artist had the chance to create a first album, a full album. But this is not a concept album. This is a collection of tracks. The 7 inches I showed you before. And of this collection, I will make you hear Maria, the one that has been also republished, thanks to, rediffused, thanks to Davide, as I said before. And Maria represents the last love song of the singer, before the change into the discovery of disco. The first, the sign of the discovery of disco is this record, Another Dance, Un Altro Ballo. This is at 45 RPM, this 7 inches, and it's in Italian on one side and in English on the other side, and it's about, it still has love song content, love affair content, but it's performed, is played inside a discotheque. So the discotheque becomes the new content, or the new environment for this kind of music. Yes, but this wasn't a success at the time of the release of this release because it was too early to introducing this new kind of role into the more traditional Italian popular music of that time. So the private television wasn't ready yet to embrace the disco planet. And it will be after another dance that Nico Fumai will leave Italy, because he felt underrated and he didn't have any contract anymore. So the last traces of Nico Fumai as singer, traditional singer, is kept in this, let's say, old school record that says Nico Fumai, the best songs, the great composers and performers. So I will make you hear Maria, which is the last song, the last love song, and then we will move into disco. Show you her. A very problematic love. Can we put the volume up?
Maria, Maria, soltanto ora poi ti rivedrò. Maria, Maria, ancora un poco poi ti bacerò. La strada è lunga da morire, mi sembra non debba mai finire. Il cuore è già stanco di aspettare, anche perché ti abbraccerò. Maria, 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 ancora un poco e busso alla tua porta. Maria, Maria, sento il calore della prima volta. La luce mi dice che ci sei, mi apri, sei bella più che mai. Allora ti amavo da morire, adesso ancora di più, Maria.
And this was Maria. So, as I said, this is like a collection of the tracks made in 1971, but in the same year the artist was already somewhere else, trying to experiment with other kind of musical style and also a different form of collaboration. And it is thanks to these failures in Italy that Fumai travels abroad and discover the chance of working on a disco production that were at the time starting in France, yes, mostly in France, also Belgium as well. This is a record that was produced by a French label called Maximus, and it's the first disco project of mine. It's a horror disco sound. This was a very typical sound from the half of the 70s. It has been a very short season, but very brilliant season for music. A way to relate disco to the imaginary from cinema, from other fields. In this record, Fumai collaborates, so is not signed as Nico Fumai, and also he was already known as a singer. So let's say this is a record of passage, of change from one music style to another. The track is called "The Soul Dracula," and these are the years of Simonetti's music for Dario Argento. So this new fascination of for the chance of flying somewhere else into another sphere with the disco music. But everything is done analogical. There are musicians, so there are this record is created was done in a studio by a band, and is signed as a B-side, as a Fumai Horror project. So as like a B project. And here we don't find anymore the role of the singer, but already the role of the vocalist, which is something that later would have been the main role of the voice in disco music. So let me hear a little bit of this. This is a very famous track, international, a very well-known international track, and there is also a video clip of this track, but being a disco track, there are the dancers. So the artist behind the piece is Itten, is the composer, is the author, not anymore the stage performer. It's nearly unbelievable that this record could be generated by the music that we heard before. The composition, the sound composition, comes from another dance. The track that was a flop, that was a failure in Italy. But then on the same composition, the same music, a chorus and other instruments have been added. And so this is how Soul Dracula was born. And the Soul Dracula was released in '76. As I said before, it was released in France. And it's again in France that another track that represents another important moment of this change in Italian music. A record that influenced a lot Italo disco, also this one, Soul Blood, but this even more. This is from '78. It's called Thème d'Araxie. So as a collaboration, Italian and French. The record is signed with the name of the artist for the French public. And it's the story about a robot that arrives in our planet and face every different population, every different people. I mean, yes, it sounds a bit not nothing special, but this is pop music from '78, and this was very common because through the introduction of the machine, through the chance of eliminating the ego of the performer on stage, that this kind of inspiration was born. So this is Thème d'Araxie, but then Thème d'Araxie was published by was published first in France, then republished in Italy by Derby, that was already a Italian disco label, and then it was included in an album called Destination Disco Planet. Yes, I mean this is independent music, and therefore it had also a diffusion in Italy. So the same country that didn't want disco at the very beginning. Now I let you hear Thème d'Araxi. Here the voice, the vocalist, has been is transformed into the vocoder. So we don't even have the shape of a human. This is a collaboration with another, with a French producer. This is instrumental, not, want to find the one with the vocoder. So in introducing synthesizers and the robot in music.
Abraxas.
So this is like a new rearrangement of the Soul Traveler project. This time taking inspiration by science fiction. And it will be thanks to this track that when I came back to Italy. It's thanks to the success of this track. We are nearly 78. So Italian television was, the private television was starting appearing as a place of leisure, a space for leisure and freedom, especially freedom. And television show, they start focusing on music. But at the same time, importing American disco was very expensive. It was too expensive for Italian label to import American disco. It would have been much more easy to make their own disco and pretend that it was coming from abroad. So it's at the end of the 70s where certain producers, including Nico Fumai, start creating this new musical style. But since they are not able to make the real American disco, they can have inspiration from French disco. They could make something that is more similar to new wave and doesn't have anything to do with disco. So the content of the song is very biographical, is very personal. Usually it's about love or dating, and vision. So everything is related to vision. Television, Queen of the Video, fotonovela, everything is related to what I see as the main reference. And yes, in the late 80s, all this generation of producers take inspiration by this case, by this having the chance of creating music and including also the love content, which is something that Nico Fumai introduced, but with many failures at the very beginning of his career. I will make you hear this. That is a very nice track. That is Fantasy. Fantasy was done for Il Discotto. Il Discotto is the best label of Italo Disco. This is one of the few tracks that in the 80s Nico Fumai produced with his own name, because he was already recognized as a singer and wasn't even anymore interested in using his own name for making music, but more a person, the studio person, the real producer, the real composer. So I make you hear Fantasy, that represents another development after the Araxi we've heard before. This is a pure Italo Disco, and this is a collaboration with Bobby Orlando. And you will recognize the voice, this time without vocoder. This is a limited edition for DJ. So it's Italian disco, Italo disco, but it was already produced for the dance floor. It's not a popular project, not pop version of disco. And another record that to be mentioned is this one, Queen of the Video. This is more really pop music for jukebox or a different kind of diffusion. But this record has never been a maxi, never. It was more like a rare rarity of the 80s. Since, as I said, Fumai worked more as a producer rather than putting his name on the work itself. I prefer this first one we heard before. This is Queen of the Video. This is arranged. the various, the different production of these years, the real masterpiece is this album. That is the only one that is collecting. That is all the artist major track. This is Fotonovela. Fotonovela was indeed created for the Spanish singer Ivan. I don't know if you know him. It's a track from 1985, and this is the Italian version of the track. But this record hosts in this B-side the content of the story of this amazing, enigmatic singer. And that track is called Volevi una hit. You wanted a hit, as in the back of this, on the B-side of this record. And this very rare song has been recently re-edited, extracting the sound, so cleaning all the sound, the original sound, re-editing with with a digital system, and now it's coming out in mostly this year with a band called Cristalli Liquidi. So it's a new wave band that is using the original track by Nico Fumari. And here I have the white record, the white sleeve. I like this track a lot. Where is Agnes? Because it really contains the sense of this, of my interest in the Nico Fumari career, and the reason why I wanted to present it in many different venues, in many different contexts, and this idea of reversed reality as a real moment of truth. So this is a song. It's like a biographical song. It's the only one that I personally know has to be released by Nico Fumari before his retirement from disco music, because Italo disco in the 1987 became so had a decay that then took disco to Eurodance, that is very trashy, very trash sound. So I lose my trace of Nico Fumari in the 87, more or less, with the end of this end of his artistical career, his retirement for music. Then I don't know if he has produced other things. And so this is, but this is the most recent experiment from him, even if it has not been edited by himself. But it's from Cristalli Liquidi, that is doing a tribute using an extract from the song.
Volevi una hit.
I really like this adaptation. As I said, it's a song about the research of success and the role of the artist, the frustration in relation to a system. And I find it a very interesting position, especially if it's something coming from the past. So I've done my thing. Thank you.